Welcome to the deep dive. We take essential sources, break them down, and give you the insights you need for, well, navigating this pretty fast-changing world. Today, we are doing a deep dive into artificial intelligence. We're drawing on quite a few sources, but especially Erik Kahn's book, The Algorithm of Power. It really gives a critical look at AI's impact, particularly around equity and access. Our mission here, to pull out the crucial stuff, help you understand what really matters, and basically empower you to deal with all this change. So let's kick things off. Why isn't this just like tech talk? Why is AI already reshaping, well, everything? Our lives, our future, even survival.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, really. If you're breathing, you need to know about AI. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's not some far-off concept anymore. It's not just for the tech folks in Silicon Valley. It's already touching almost every part of most people's lives. I mean, unless you're completely off the grid, no phone, no smart anything, AI is part of your reality. So our goal in this deep dive is to kind of sift through it all, find those key insights, and help you really grasp how big and fast this AI impact is and will be.
Okay, so let's unpack that right away. If it's already so embedded, how is it, quietly shaping things day to day, often without us noticing? Can you give us some solid examples?
Absolutely. And that's the first big takeaway, right? AI isn't coming, it's here already.
Yeah.
It's subtly guiding your choices in ways you might not even realize. Think about like the algorithms on Amazon.
Yeah.
Or your GPS app,
Yeah.
or your social media feed. These things are constantly learning from what you do. They influence the products you see, the news you read, even what you think you want before you, well, know you want it. It's like this invisible hand kind of steering your reality.
An invisible hand, yeah. And it gets more personal too, doesn't it? Beyond just what we see online. What about other ways, like physical things? How's AI showing up there?
Oh, totally. It really does get personal. Like if you wear a smartwatch, that thing's tracking your heart rate, your sleep, maybe even stress levels. And that data, it's feeding AI systems that might, predict health issues down the line. Companies are working on smart glasses, too. They could replace your phone completely. Imagine taking calls, reading messages right there in your lenses. And physical wallets, probably on their way out. Your face, maybe your voice, even just how you walk. That could become your ID to pay for stuff in stores. Your smart fridge. It won't just keep things cold. It'll track expiration dates, learn your habits, maybe even order groceries for you by syncing up with the store. And smart shopping charts are being tested right now. They scan and bill items as you put them in. No cashier needed.
Wow. It's kind of wild to think these systems could eventually, like you said, know us better than we know ourselves. And you stress this isn't an age thing. Everyone needs to get up to speed. But is there a downside to being constantly connected like that? If your phone is always feeding you what it thinks you want, what does that do to our thinking?
Yeah, that's a really important point. That constant stream, it triggers algorithms designed to keep you hooked, right? To maximize engagement. And while they do that, they gather more and more data about us. The risk, well, this constant screen time, this feed, it can kind of take control of your focus, pull you away from deeper thinking, more productive thoughts. But, we have to balance that because AI also offers some undeniably good things.
Right. Because, there are concerns, but AI is also doing some truly amazing stuff. What are some of the big positives we're already seeing?
Oh, there are loads. Personal assistants, for one, they've gotten incredibly helpful. Social media platforms, they use AI to filter out, harmful content, and also to personalize feeds in ways people actually like. Healthcare is a big one. AI chatbots for booking appointments, AI helping doctors with diagnoses, those wearable devices monitoring health constantly. Transportation. Think Google Maps, Uber, and definitely self-driving cars coming down the pike. Entertainment, Amazon, Netflix, YouTube. They all heavily rely on AI for recommendations. It's also super important for things like fraud detection, financial robo-advisors, even education tools like Khan Academy. So yeah, lots of positives. We just need awareness, see both sides.
Okay, that gives us a good picture of now. But you mentioned earlier missing the first wave of tech. What exactly was that first wave? What are we comparing this AI moment to?
Right, so the first wave usually refers to the commercialization of the internet, the whole .com boom. Think back to like August 1995. Netscape goes public. Stock opens at $28, closes at $58 on the first day. That's a 108% jump. That IPO basically kicked off an era. People who got in early with companies like Google in 2004 or Facebook in 2012, they saw unbelievable returns. For example, the average Google employee with stock options, their holdings were worth something like $3.8 million when Google went public. Facebook IPO in 2012, average employee stake was about $2.9 million. And these weren't just the top execs, right? These were early employees who understood the power of equity.
That sounds like just massive wealth creation. But Erik Kahn in The Algorithm of Power, he points out a big problem with that wave, especially for certain groups. What was the core issue there?
The core problem was that um, many communities, specifically low-income areas, black and brown people, Latinos, they largely missed out on that first wave. And it was a mix of things, right? Lack of involvement in the tech itself, limited access to computers and the internet back then, big gaps in education. Like back in 1997, white households were twice as likely to own a computer as black households. By 2000, only about 23% of black households had internet access versus 46% of white households. Plus, you look at Silicon Valley tech companies during that time. Black and Latino workers were less than 10% of the workforce. And venture capital, less than 1% went to black founders. So our usage helped make these companies huge, but our communities often didn't share in the ownership wealth.
And speaking of missed opportunities, Khan shares a really personal story in the book from that time. What happened there? And what was the big lesson he took away about ownership and skills?
Right, he talks about building Flash websites back in the early 2000s, outsourced the development work to companies in India, spent over $30,000 over like 15 years. And then the companies just vanished. Proof. He lost ownership, lost control. The huge lesson he learned from that whole experience was just how vital it is to own what you build. And crucially, to invest in your own skills. Plus, needing financial literacy alongside the tech know-how. Making money is one thing, but knowing how to keep it, grow it. That's a whole other skill set, one that many communities just weren't equipped with then.
That's a tough lesson. Wow. So it really begs the question, why is this AI wave different? Why is it so much more urgent than those earlier shifts?
What makes this AI wave so different is the speed. Just look at ChatGPT. It hit 100 million users in just 2 months. 2 months. That's the fastest growing consumer app in history. Compare that to the internet itself took about 10 years to get to 50% adoption. Smartphones took around 5 years. This isn't a slow change. It's like a tidal wave. And there's something else critical happening. Innovations like Starlink, these massive underwater cable networks, they could completely change the internet's infrastructure. Seriously, the internet as we know it might not even exist in 10 years.
Yeah.
The companies building these new systems, they're going to have incredible power. We can't afford to miss this one.
That speed is definitely intense. But it brings us to a huge ethical question, right? Bias in AI. What does all this rapid development mean for bias? How did that become such a big issue so fast?
Yeah, AI bias showed up really early, almost right away when models like ChatGPT and those text-to-image generators came out. Like you'd ask an image model for 10 kings, and you'd pretty much only get back European faces. Or ask for a black person with royal features, and you might get, stereotypical images with afros or dreads, not polished, regal-looking people. The root issue, as Khan points out, is these models just weren't made for everyone. They were trained on data that barely included diverse communities, and when it did, the representation was often skewed or just plain wrong.
So it's not just the output, it's the foundation, the data it learned from. And that connects back to what you said earlier, certain communities weren't in the room. Can you expand on that?
Exactly. The people who trained these systems, they brought their own perspectives, their own data sources, and their own blind spots. And the models just learned all of that, amplified it even. The fact that the tech teams are so homogenous is a massive part of the problem. Now, it's important to say, people are working on fixing this. Like the book mentions folks like Tech with X who jumped in to help change biased outputs. It shows that human intervention, diverse voices, they really matter.
That's a key point. Okay, to make this really concrete for listeners, can you give us some more specific real-world examples? Where has this AI bias actually caused problems beyond just images?
Oh, absolutely. In hiring, for instance, Amazon had this internal AI tool for screening resumes. It was trained on their past hiring data, and it started downgrading resumes that mentioned the word woman or came from all women's colleges. Amazon actually had to scrap it in 2018 because they couldn't get the bias out. Then there's criminal justice, an algorithm called Compass, used by judges to predict if someone might reoffend. Studies found it was twice as likely to falsely flag black defendants as high risk compared to white defendants, and that impacts bail sentencing. And sadly, that algorithm is still used in some places. And remember that image recognition mess with Google back in 2015. Their AI mistakenly tagged photos of black people as gorillas. Just horrifying. It starkly showed the massive gaps in their training data diversity.
Those are incredibly disturbing examples, especially the idea that automation just scales up existing bias and makes it harder to see. Are there other, maybe less obvious areas where this bias has a huge impact, like healthcare?
Yes, unfortunately. Healthcare is where the consequences can be truly devastating. We've seen AI triage systems give black patients lower priority scores. Why? Because they were trained on historical data that already reflected biased treatment patterns. Studies have even shown some medical students hold, like false beliefs about black people's biology, leading them to prescribe less pain medication. And the stats on maternal mortality. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. That's regardless of education or income. In New York City, it's 12 times more likely. Look at the tragic case of Dr. Susan Moore during the pandemic. A black physician herself felt her COVID symptoms weren't taken seriously. And we learned pulse oximeters can be less accurate on darker skin. There was also an algorithm used in hospitals across the U.S. affecting over 100 million people. It systematically discriminated against black patients. How? It used healthcare costs as a proxy for healthcare need. Since less money was historically spent on black patients due to systemic issues, the algorithm wrongly flagged them as healthier or needing less intervention. It cut the number of black patients identified for extra care by more than half. Even dermatology AI, significantly less accurate on darker skin tones because it wasn't trained on enough diverse images.
It's just deeply unsettling. Hearing how embedded these problems are, even in systems meant to help, it really drives home your point. AI didn't invent bias, it just automated it. So what does this mean for where AI is heading, especially since, as you said, profit often drives these companies?
Right. It's crucial to grasp that AI didn't create bias out of thin air. It learned it from us, from our data, our history. Then it automated it, scaled it up, and hid it behind this illusion of objective technology. And yeah, the direction of this whole movement is largely steered by big profit-driven companies. Their main goal might not be community well-being or fairness, because frankly, sometimes ensuring fairness might cost money, might hurt the bottom line for shareholders. This gets worse when you look at the hidden values baked into AI development. Who's building this stuff? Overwhelmingly homogenous teams, mostly white and Asian men, often from privileged backgrounds, elite universities, like Google's AI research staff, only about 2.5% black. Facebook's around 4% black. There's also this Western philosophical bias you see in AI ethics discussions. Concepts like human values are often treated as universal, but they tend to reflect Western individualistic views. And when you deploy AI systems built on those assumptions globally, you risk creating a kind of digital colonialism.
Okay, so if the root of the problem is who's building it and what data it's trained on, what's the solution? How do we actually move towards building AI that's equitable from the start?
Well, there's no single silver bullet, but there are clear steps. We absolutely need diverse teams, and not just like token diversity. We need real diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI integrated into every stage of building these models. We need much more transparency about how these systems work and what data they use. Independent audits are critical. We need clear rules about who's liable when things go wrong. Maybe things like community oversight boards could help there. Data collection has got to prioritize diverse representation, not as an afterthought, but from day one. And fundamentally, it's about embedding equity by design right from the very beginning of any AI project. The bottom line is this: if we, meaning historically marginalized communities, if we're not building AI, if we're not studying AI, if we're not in the rooms where decisions are made, then we're not really going to be in the future. AI literacy, participation, it's vital. Otherwise, we risk just being used, our data extracted by free models and locked out of everything important that's coming.
That leads perfectly into this idea of access and, frankly, economic survival. You mentioned the digital divide 2.0. What exactly is that, and what are the economic consequences, especially for people already on the margins?
Yeah, the digital divide 2.0, it's a really important concept. The first digital divide was basically about who could get online, who had access to the internet. This new divide, it's about who can actually use AI, who can harness it to improve their lives, their work, their communities. And access to AI is quickly becoming about economic survival. The stats are already showing a huge gap. A survey from 2023 found that something like 82% of high-income professionals use advanced AI tools regularly at work. Compare that to workers earning below the median income, just 14%. That's not just a gap, it's a massive chasm, and it's getting wider fast. And this leads to what's essentially a pay-to-play model for intelligence itself. Access to these powerful AI models often depends on tokens. Think of them like units of processing power. Roughly, maybe 3/4 of an English word costs a token. So every word you type in, every word the AI generates back, it costs something. This punishes experimenting, learning, playing around with the tools. It turns AI access into a privilege, not a right.
Those who can afford more tokens, more powerful models, what they call more parameters, they get to unlock more knowledge, more capability. My view, AI should be treated like a public utility, like electricity. Not a privilege, especially when just a few big companies are basically setting the pace for the entire world.
That's a really powerful point about intelligence becoming pay to play. It's quite concerning. So if access is becoming a privilege, does that mean the old idea of a stable, lifelong career is just gone for most people?
Yeah.
Is reskill or be replaced really the new mantra?
That old blueprint of a stable career, yeah, it's definitely outdated. And Reskill or be replaced? Absolutely, that's the reality. But, and this is key, you don't necessarily need to become a coder to survive this shift. What you need is what Khan calls functional intelligence. It means learning how to work with AI tools effectively. It's about knowing which tool is right for the job. Like, when should you use the free ChatGPT 3.5 versus the paid GPT-4? Or when is Claude better? Or Manus or Copilot? It's like driving a car, right? You don't need to understand exactly how the engine works to drive it. You just need to know how to steer, how to use the pedals, follow the rules of the road.
That's a great analogy. It makes it feel less daunting. So, okay, besides just steering, what specific skills really empower people now, regardless of their job?
The absolute starting point, prompting. Prompting is power. That's the new literacy. There's a framework, like the Prompting Power 5, that helps. It's about 5 key things for a good prompt. 1, persona. Tell the AI who you want it to act like. An expert marketer, a helpful teacher. 2, context. Give it the background information it needs. 3, description. Be clear about what task you want it to do. 4, rules. Set guidelines or boundaries for the output. And 5, output indicator. Specify what format you want the response in. A list, a paragraph, a table. Now, when you start saving these prompts, refining them, testing what works, you're building your own prompt library. That library, that becomes your intellectual property, your IP. It's a reusable system you can use again and again. That's how you scale your creativity, your productivity. The big shift is moving from just doing the job to collaborating with machines, becoming an AI collaborator. This makes you way more productive, maybe 3 to 5 times more efficient at what you already do. Think about a real estate agent. Instead of spending hours writing property descriptions, they use AI. Scheduling social media, drafting follow-up emails. AI can do that in minutes. You could probably create a whole month's worth of social media content in like 20 minutes. That's why the saying goes, AI isn't here to take your job. But someone who knows how to use AI absolutely will. The good news, reskilling for this doesn't have to take years. It can be weeks. AI literacy is basically the new resume. Companies want people who can solve problems using these tools. And we're also seeing the rise of AI-driven leadership, people who aren't just using AI, but supervising it, orchestrating it across entire teams or businesses, even in skilled trades like plumbing or electrical work.
Wow. This has been incredibly illuminating. We've covered so much ground, the stakes, the opportunities. For you listening right now, what's standing out most to you? You've given us a ton to think about. Yeah. So where should people start, especially if it feels overwhelming? What's the biggest mindset shift needed right now?
I think the most crucial thing is that mindset shift, moving away from skepticism. You know, sometimes we have this tendency, especially in certain communities, to wait and see if something's successful before we jump in. But AI, it demands continuous adaptation. You can't wait. Critical thinking, creative problem solving, using AI, these are absolute must-have skills now. And it really calls for collective action. We can't just do this individually. So concrete steps, what can you actually do? First, educate yourself. There are so many resources out there now, many free or low cost. Udemy, Coursera, TheAILearning.AI, IBM has courses, tons of great YouTube channels like at 2 Minute Papers, at 3 Blue 1 Brown, at AI Erik. Check out community colleges, organizations like Black in AI, Latinx in AI, Women in Machine Learning. There's Elements of AI, elementsofe.com. Google has a machine learning crash course. The key is ongoing learning, though. This field changes literally by the week. Second step, start using the tools. Seriously, just play around with them. Try ChatGPT for drafting emails or Deli or Midjourney for creating images. Use them for real tasks in your life or work. That hands-on experience is the best way to understand what they can and can't do. Third, build your own stuff. Don't just be a consumer, be a creator. You don't need to code. Use no-code platforms like Bubble, Adlo, Glide. You can build custom apps, and remember that prompt library. Own it, refine it. That's your IP. Create repeatable systems for your work, whether it's real estate, teaching, running a nonprofit, whatever. Fourth, get involved locally, in your community. Organize AI literacy workshops, maybe at the community center, church, library. Think like a Tech Sunday event. Advocate for AI education in schools, K-12. Partner with local colleges. HBCUs like Howard University's program with Google is a great example. Build networks. Connect with other AI-focused entrepreneurs. Maybe even start community-based AI auditing groups to check for bias. Fifth, realize our collective power. The tech industry needs us. They need users. They need social acceptance. That gives us leverage to demand change. We've seen it work before. Think about Google employees protesting Project Maven, or Amazon and Microsoft pausing facial recognition sales to police after public pressure. We need to build our own power base and use it strategically. And finally, use your economic and cultural power. Support AI companies that are specifically trying to serve marginalized communities. And shape the narrative. Create content about AI from diverse perspectives, podcasts, YouTube, social media. We need more voices like Dr. Timnit Gebru's DIR Institute, Sinead Bovell, the folks at Black in AI, Latinx in AI. Look, the algorithm's moving fast. But it's absolutely not too late. The barriers to entry, legally and socially, they're actually lower now than ever before in some ways. This time, we really have a chance to make history, to break those old cycles of exclusion, to build our own table, not just ask for a seat at theirs.
This deep dive has really laid it all out, the high stakes, but also the very real opportunities. We've gone from seeing AI everywhere in daily life to understanding the history, the missed waves, confronting the bias, the new digital divide, and maybe most importantly, uncovering these clear, practical ways for you to get involved, to shape your future instead of just letting it happen to you.
Yeah. This time, we just can't afford to be left out. We really do have the power to influence where this all goes, but only if we act. Now, the future isn't just something that watches over us. It's something we can and must create together. We need to make sure AI serves all of us, enhances our potential, reflects our values. The algorithm is moving. The big question for you is, are you moving with it?